Hi, and welcome to another episode of Spinster Stories, where I spin yarn and tell spooky stories. Today is going to be a wild ride, so buckle up and get ready. We are going over the Leonarda Cianciulli case. She was also known as the Soap-Maker of Correggio. We will find out how she got that nickname later in the video. Fair warning, absolutely disgusting, very disturbing. You've been warned. Before we get into all the details, I'm going to let you know what I'm spinning. So I finished that alpaca wool from last time. And today we're just going to be plying it. So we're turning it from a single strand yarn into a 3-ply yarn. I'm going to be chain plying. I think it's really fun to watch. Let me know what you think. And if you like the plying, I can try and do that in more videos. Otherwise, I'll just stick to just spinning. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So we're going to be taking it way back to before Leonarda was born. And we're going to talk about her mother. So Leonarda's mother was assaulted, sadly, and that is what resulted in Leonarda. And Leonarda's mother, her parents made her marry her assaulter so that she could keep her honor and her dignity, and they raised the baby together. And Leonarda's mother ended up resenting Leonarda for this and took out all her anger and pent up rage on Leonarda. So she had a bit of a rough childhood. She attempted suicide twice throughout her life, living with her mother. And her mother decided one day that she was going to make Leonarda marry a rich man to help get the family out of debt and solve all their problems. But Leonarda was not too thrilled with that idea. She went to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller ended up saying that she was going to marry and have children, but all her children were going to die in her youth. And that kind of freaked her out, but she kind of put that in the back of her mind. And then she ended up meeting Raphael Pansardi in about 1917, and they got married. And Leonarda's mother was not happy with that at all. And she cursed Leonarda. And Leonarda, she really believes in like the fortune telling and the curses and all that. So she took it really serious and it upset her. But she went through with the marriage anyways. And her and Raphael moved to Laria Potenza. Sorry in advance if I'm butchering these Italian names. I don't speak Italian. Anyways, they moved, and Leonarda was convicted and arrested for fraud in 1927, spent a few years in jail, and then when they got out, they moved to Lacedonia Averillo. Again, sorry, I'm not good at Italian. So anyways, they moved there, started a new life, and their home ended up getting destroyed in a huge earthquake in 1930. So they moved again to Correggio, and that is where she opened up shop. And she was well respected in the community. Everybody loved her. She made soap and little tea cakes, like a little bakery. And, she was having a good time. But she still kept thinking about that fortune teller she went to that said about all the kids. And she ended up going to another fortune teller. She went to a palm reader who looked at her palms and said, "In your right hand, I see prison. In your left, a criminal asylum." So weird, but she didn't think too much of it, but it was always in the back of her mind. Like, she wasn't sure what this lady meant by this. But she goes on with her life and goes on to have 17 pregnancies. 3 of them ended up being miscarriages, and 10 of the babies of her children, died in infancy and early childhood. And 4 ended up making it past adolescence. So with all this and all the, trauma she went through getting these kids into the world, she got really protective of her kids. She ended up having a favorite, her son Giuseppe. And one day, Giuseppe in 1939 came to Leonarda and told her that he was going to join the Italian army to help fight in World War II. And this terrified Leonarda because, she's lost so many kids already. She's not ready to lose another one, especially not her favorite. So she gets this idea that to protect him and save him, she needs to resort to human sacrifice. So what she does is she finds these old women, old unmarried women in the community, and starts trying to lure them to her. First woman she gets was Faustina, and Leonarda told her she was going to help her find a husband. And she had a husband for her in, a few cities away. And she had all these letters for him, and they were writing letters back and forth. But Leonarda said that she needed to keep it a secret and not tell anybody. And she did. She kept it a secret. And then Faustina came to Leonardo's shop one day to say thank you and goodbye. And they sat down and had some wine together. And Faustina didn't realize that Leonarda had drugged the wine. So the wine's drugged, she goes unconscious, and Leonarda takes an axe and kills her, drags her to a closet, chops her up in 9 pieces. And, then she moves on. And a little while later, she gets close with Francesca, who's also, an older woman, not married, and is, needing some help. So Leonarda says she'll help her get a job. And she tells her, "Oh, I have this job for you in another city teaching at a school for girls." And she's super on board with this, really excited. Again, Leonarda is telling her to keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody. So she doesn't. And, comes to say thank you to Leonarda for finding her this job and getting all the details. And then same thing, drugs her, kills her, chops her up in little bitty pieces, and then, and then she moves on. And then she gets close with Virginia, the third woman, who also needs a job. She was a soprano singer back in the day, singing the opera. Music was really important to her. So Leonarda told her that she got a job as a secretary to an impresario. She was so excited about this. And Leonarda, again, told her to keep it a secret. But Virginia, she was the only one, she told somebody that she was going to go get this job and that Leonarda had lined it up for her. So when she went missing, after Leonarda, did the same thing, drugged her, chopped her up in pieces, and her family knew that the last person she was with was Leonarda, so they're a little concerned, and they start pointing fingers at Leonarda. And so they move on, and they have like a little investigation going, and they think that Leonarda and her son Giuseppe are the ones that are, making these women disappear. And Leonarda was totally fine, not helping with the investigation or anything. But as soon as her son was accused, she went to the police and confessed everything. And this is where it gets disturbing. So in the trial, they're asking what happened. How did all these women die? If it wasn't your son, how did you do this? And she gave very detailed explanations in the trial. I've got it written down. So when she was talking about Faustina, Here's a direct quote. It was, "I threw the pieces into a pot, added 7 kilos of caustic soda, which I had bought to make soap. I stirred the mixture well until the pieces dissolved into a thick, dark mush that I poured into a bucket and emptied into a nearby septic tank. As for the blood in the basin, I waited until it coagulated, dried it in the oven, ground it, and mixed it with flour, sugar, chocolate, milk, and eggs, as well as a bit of margarine. Kneading all the ingredients together, I made lots of crunchy tea cakes and served them to the ladies who came to visit, though Giuseppe and I also ate them." So, not only did she kill this woman, she collected her blood to make cakes that she served to people. So this is like real life Sweeney Todd, Mrs. Lovett stuff going on. And I'm absolutely sick thinking about that. Could you imagine going to this bakery, the shop that has this well-respected, like, sweet old lady, and you go eat their cakes all the time, and then later you find out that she'd been murdering people and turning them into cakes, which she was feeding to you? Like, oh my goodness. Oh, so we move on in the investigation, and she had done the same exact thing to Francesca, but with Virginia, she had done something a little bit different. And here's another direct quote about Virginia. "She ended up in the pot like the other two. Her flesh was fat and white. When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet." So she's saying she was sweet, literally. Like, she was sweet because the cakes were sweeter when she made them out of her, which is gut wrenching. Like, that's, oh, I'm going to be sick. So in this trial, she gives all these details, all these disturbing statements like that. And it said that she would correct the judge and like the jury when they would get the details wrong. She was very, very thorough in making sure everything was right. She had absolutely no remorse at all. Like, didn't care one bit. She was just, trying to protect her son, wholeheartedly believed that human sacrifice was the only way to do it. So after all this, she was convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in an asylum. And before she went to jail, I know that the courts were confused on, like, there's no way you could do this by yourself. Like, are you sure you did this all by yourself? So they took her to a morgue and had her demonstrate with one of the corpses, and they timed her to see how fast she could dismember this body and do it all by herself. And she was able to dismember the body into 9 pieces in 12 minutes. And so they're like, yep, she worked alone. So Giuseppe, got to go live off his dreams of joining the army. And Leonarda went to prison. And she ended up dying of cerebral apoplexy on October 15th of 1970 while she was still serving her time in the criminal asylum. Whew. So that was absolutely insane. Like, that one's hard to think about, because it's one thing for somebody to, resort to cannibalism and be creepy, but I feel like it's a whole other level to, make other people do it unaware. So let me know what you think of this story. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments on it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time on Spinster Stories.